So I wanted to tell the story of how I got started with Tunisian crochet. And I'm not an expert with Tunisian crochet, and the only stitch that I really like with Tunisian crochet is the Tunisian simple stitch. So I'm going to tell you how I got to find this Tunisian simple stitch and why. So I was asked to make a crochet Minecraft blanket because the recipient just loved Minecraft. So I went together planning on how I was going to do this, and I found that using single crochet for some of the characters worked well, and I loved how you could change the colors. So I'm just going to show you. So here's a close-up. So I just used single crochet to make small blocks, and I made 8 by 8 blocks for my characters, and I liked this method because I could change the colors easily, and it made it a quilt-like pattern, so it looks kind of poofy. Now it's a little bit more work to do this because you have to sew the little blocks together, and also you have to use single crochet, but I love that method, and if I were to do it again I would use that method again. And I just put the little squares in a Ziploc bag until I was ready to sew them together. And I used the Minecraft. You can find Minecraft characters, pictures of all the Minecraft characters very easily on Pinterest or Google search. Now the problem that I found was when I was making some of the characters, like the sword, the arrow, and the shovel. And so what I did was I discovered I had to search for another stitch because I didn't want to use single crochet. To me, it was tedious and it just took forever. So I had done a search online trying to find another stitch that maybe could be quicker. And for me personally, I found the Tunisian simple stitch, and I haven't gone back. Ever since then, I have just stuck with Tunisian simple stitch for creating my small pictures. Now I have people who try to show me work they use C2C or some of those others that they use with graphs, and you can do that. The only problem is if I used C2C for this little block, it'll make it very large and too big. So I wanted a small block about the size of my single crochet characters. So an 8 by 8 block of this character, I needed another block. And that's where I found that working 40 by 40 blocks worked well for me. And I ended up just drawing my own graphs. So I have free 40 by 40 graphs on my blog, and you can download them. Just go to my blog, www.helenmaycrochet.com, and at the top of my blog's homepage, you'll see a link for graphs and free graphs and stuff like that. So you just click on that and you can find the free graph. The other place that you can download the free graphs, the size that you want, because my squid, I ended up making a larger block, so it was a 40 block by a longer 80 block. So you can change the sizes of the blocks on Stitch Fiddle. So Stitch Fiddle, just go in there and you can print up blank graphs if you need to and make the size that you want. And then I'll get into how I changed my blocks as I made more blankets. So this was my first blanket. So my first blanket, I had fun changing the sizes of some of my blocks. Most of my blocks were the same size, but you can see that for the name on the side, I changed the size of the blocks that I used for that. So I've changed over time, and I'll show that with the different blankets that I show you, but for my first blanket, that's what I did. And you can do that, but you just have to make sure that your blocks will fit together like a puzzle piece. You can see that they all fit together when I was finished to form one big blanket. So that's what introduced me to Tunisian simple stitch, and I haven't turned back since. I just love the method and I use it all the time, and I think that I've gotten better with each subsequent blanket. So this was the snow golem that someone had asked me to make for them because they wanted to Tunisian crochet it. And so I had made this for them. And no, I don't make free for everybody. I do. Sometimes I'll offer free designs and stuff with my Helenmay Crochet special donor members, like I'm doing this year, 2020. I'm going to pick one random free crochet design request from one of my members. And last year I had actually opened up free crochet requests, and I'm still finishing up a few of those for this year. I moved the free ones over to 2020. So I'm just saying that so that I don't get a lot of requests, because I get a lot of requests all the time and I always have to explain. So I just wanted to explain that in case I start getting a lot of requests. So yes, this was a request that I had accepted for the snow golem. So this one I used Tunisian crochet for, because you can't make snow golem very easily like I did for these characters on my, where I used single crochet blocks 8x8. This one required a little bit more design, and so I used a 40x40 Tunisian crochet block, and it worked amazingly. So you can do that. I'm just showing this so you can see that that is an option that you can do. So if you like some of my graphs that I used for my Tunisian Minecraft block, I offer them for free download in my Facebook files. I used to have it on my YouTube channel, but there are some people who feel that I shouldn't monetize something that's copyrighted or trademarked. And so I agree with that. So I took it off of my YouTube and my blog, but you will be able to find it in my Facebook group files because I do not monetize my Facebook. And you're free to join my group too. I have the links. You can find the links in the section that describes this video tutorial. I put the links in there now, so you can just click on the link if you would like to join my free Facebook group. If you don't see the graph that you want, just let me know, and the one that I used for this blanket only, so I don't graph for you. I'm just showing you how I do it in this video with one of mine. I'll show you how I did it. So, but I'll get to that when I get to the blankets that I made subsequently to this one. But if you see something on here that you like, I give these graphs for free that I use. They're rough graphs, so they're not perfect. They're free, so I offer them for free in my Facebook group files. So I had so much fun on my Minecraft blanket, and the person that received it loved it so much, of course somebody else wanted one too. So that will happen probably with you as well. And so my next blanket that I made was for the Guardians of the Galaxy, because even I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't seen that movie, it's really, I think it's hilarious and fun to watch. So anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, it's no surprise that this is a request that someone made. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I actually drew everything and designed it myself. Now, some of the pictures I used as inspiration from online. So I found this picture was somebody's art that they did online, and so was this one. Now, I didn't copy theirs exactly, and I drew the graphs myself. So, and I only offer them for free, so I don't sell them, and it was only for personal use, so I don't sell this blanket either. And those are things that you should know, that if it is a copyrighted or trademarked item, you should not be selling the finished item. It's for personal use only, and you should not be selling the graphs that you make unless you have permission from the copyright or trademark holder. So now that's out of the way. Now, if you like the graphs that I used, I do offer them for free download. They're very rough graphs that I made, and I put them in my group files. So if you don't find them in my Facebook group files, which is not monetized, so I don't monetize it, and I just share the graphs that I used for this one. So if you like the ones that I used for this one, then you're welcome to get those from my Facebook group files. So this is just showing how I made this one. Now, this was another one that I had pieced together different sized blocks. So here you can see where I made a longer one, and I had still been using this method. I have changed since that time because I like my 4-block method, and I'll show you that later. And I used some of my 4-block method in this one, but I did use different sized blocks for this one to put it together to finish one blanket that fit together nicely like a puzzle piece. And the other thing that this one that I didn't like too much that I did was I changed colors. If I did it again, I probably would use a more consistent color like blue here and the same blue here. But other than that, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And you'll learn too as you're making your own. Part of the fun is designing your own. So you'll learn, you know, as you go and adapt to your favorite method that you would like to use. Now this one, I used Tunisian crochet for the whole blanket, the Tunisian simple stitch. So that brings me to my third blanket, and this third blanket is the one that I'm most proud of, and this is the technique that I use from here on out. And that's where I use a 4 block here, and this is a 40 by 40 block for each of them, and then I put them together, 4 blocks. So here's 1, and then here's 2, and then here's 3 for the bottom, and then I have 4 blocks, 3 4 blocks for the middle, and then 3 4 blocks for the top, and it fits together for a nice blanket. So that's the method that I use now. The other thing that I like is my clamshell border. I have a separate video tutorial for the clamshell border, and you can find that on my YouTube channel if you want to check out my clamshell border. But the clamshell border is my favorite border for my Tunisian crochet afghans. So this one, I really had a lot of fun with this one. And then the other different thing that I did with this one is I actually use safety doll eyes. So you can see where I put the safety doll eyes on here. Now the only thing is, if you decide to use safety doll eyes, is that you have to remember that it can be a choking hazard, potential choking hazard. So you just have to keep that in mind, who you're making the gift for. Now, I have all of the graphs for my Wizard of Oz blanket also in my group files on Facebook. So if you like some of the graphs that I used or drew for this one, you can get them in my Facebook group files. So again, they're very rough graphs. I didn't put them on Stitch Fiddle. I just, from my drawings on my blank 40 by 40 graphs are what I uploaded. So if you like those, it still works. They're just not very neat looking. So this one is one of my favorites, and again, I feel like I got better and better, of course, as I made each subsequent blanket. So I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And so now that brings me to my 4th Afghan. So this will be my 4th Afghan using the Tunisian simple stitch, and this is just the bottom row. So this is my Tunisian crochet under the sea mystery cowl for the year 2020. So far I have finished the bottom portion. So I actually drew all of these graphs, and so I'm going to kind of explain how I did that with this video tutorial in case you want to switch out some blocks. And I want to explain a few things with this cowl or crochet along, because I designed it so that a beginner who wants to attempt to use this technique that I used, I tried to make my blocks so that a beginner could attempt it. So the absolute beginner may want to start with one of my Tunisian crochet soap savers, and I have a separate video tutorial for that. And I also have a link for it on my blog where I start my Tunisian crochet under the sea cowl. So I provide those links for you and give helpful tips on my blog, www.helenmaycrochet.com. So for my first 4 blocks, you can see that I placed the image on only one of my 40 by 40 blocks. So the crab was my first one that I drew and put on Stitch Fiddle. So each of these graphs, I actually drew it first and then colored it in using Stitch Fiddle. So, and I'm offering these graphs for free download on my blog. So they look really nice and neat, and you can have the free download when you go to my blog. But you can see how I made it easier, because another thing that I did for these first 4 blocks is I showed how to start it with just one color. So you start it with just one color. And also the image is only on one block. So it makes it a little bit easier to get you started, showing how I use this technique. The other fun thing about this is you can use these images for other things. So if you like C2C, or you like different ways of, using your graphs as far as crochet goes, you can do that. If you use my graphs, I just ask that you give me credit for using my graphs. I actually drew all these graphs, and I'll explain what I do to get started, because I'm not like an expert artist for drawing. So you don't have to be an expert person who draws to be able to make these graphs, is what I'm trying to say. So I made the first 4 easy so that the image, you can use it for pillows. And I have a separate video tutorial that shows you how I turned my cardinal Tunisian crochet into a pillow. So you can look for that on my YouTube channel as well. So anyway, and you can also use it for bags too. So that's a lot of fun. So anyway, I started the first 4 blocks with an easier way of getting you started. Now with the next 4 blocks, I introduced showing how to attach blocks, because I use Tunisian crochet to attach all of my blocks. So I don't sew them by hand together. I actually use Tunisian crochet to join my blocks as well. And somebody had asked me, why do you, because there is a method where you don't have to sew your blocks. You can just Tunisian crochet all the way across if you wanted to, and then not have the blocks. Personally, I don't like that, because to me it's a nightmare. You would have to have a special hook too. I like my little standard hook. This is the only Tunisian crochet hook that I own, and it's approximately a 5.75 millimeter hook. I had to put a sticker on it because I wore it off. So this is the only hook that I own, and I mean, that not against those that love Tunisian crochet, because you can really get into Tunisian crochet, and if you really love Tunisian crochet, you could join groups on Facebook that's all they do, or they really get into more Tunisian crochet and show you really fun techniques and all that kind of stuff. I'm just showing you the method that I like, and the reason why I like this method is because I can work in small blocks. And so I just work on my small blocks while watching television, and I'm able to make mine pretty quickly when I do that. So there are many different ways, and again, I'm just showing you the method that I use. So now, back to my next 4 blocks. I have a separate video tutorial, and I link this through as you follow along with the crochet along, explaining all of this to you and linking you to the video tutorials. So that brings me to my next blocks, where I show you how to attach 2 blocks that have a shared image. So you can see how my squid kind of reaches over into this block. So that's where I show you how to do that. Then with my last 4 blocks, this is the bottom of the afghan. So here, just to show you, this is the bottom of my afghan. So I finished this portion of my afghan for my under the sea cowl, so just the bottom. And now we're moving up to the middle portion of the blanket. So for the last 4 blocks, what I did was I showed how I made the image stretch. So if you have a larger image that you want, but it won't fit into this block, like my little mermaid, she didn't quite fit into this block, then I stretch her into the block above. And so the reason why I made the blocks consistent is because the seam will run all the way across. But if you don't care about that, you could crochet the 40 all the way up to 80 rows without worrying about attaching a top image to a bottom image. But for those that like attaching the top image to the bottom image like mine, I show how to do that, or how I did it with these 2. So now, how did I draw mine? Because if you go right to Stitch Fiddle, you're not going to be able to see your image very well as you're trying to use the Stitch Fiddle program. At least I can't. So for me, what I have to do is I print up 4 of my 40 by 40 blank graphs, and then I kind of tape them together. So you can see how I kind of fold them, and then I tape them together. And then I just take my pencil and I kind of draw a rough graft. And you can see how my eraser, you're going to need a good eraser too, unless you're really good at drawing. And what I do is I kind of draw the image the way that I would like it to appear on my graph. And then once you've drawn it, you can take your markers or colored pencils, and I like to use Sharpie Papermate. And I've used colored pencils before, and they just, for me, the Sharpie comes out darker. So the color is just really, I love the way the color comes out, and that's why I love these best. So anyway, what I do is I take the colors, first I draw it with a pencil. And then once I'm happy with how I drew the shape of what I wanted, then you can take your colors and you just kind of follow along with your Sharpie along the drawn portion that you had with the pencil. And the trickiest part that I find with the smaller graphs are the eyes. And that's why with the Wizard of Oz, I had used safety doll eyes. And you could use safety doll eyes for this one too. You just would not use for this part where I made the eyes or showed you how I made the eyes. You wouldn't place the eyes. You would just use beige for the face all through there. And then you could go back and either use a safety doll eye or you could embroider it. So I do use embroidery too. Some of the things that I like to use embroidery for are the mouth, the nose, and the eyes. I haven't tried that yet. I've only tried the safety doll eyes. Now on this Afghan that I'm showing the crochet along, I'm showing you how I make eyes. So so far I'm really happy with how my eyes are turning out for my animals as well as for my mermaid and the merman. So I'm going to make all of the eyes for this Afghan. So I have the technique with the safety doll eyes like my Wizard of Oz, or you can use this technique where I show you how I make my eyes. So then what I do is I kind of label my blocks. Usually here's my block 9, this is block 10, and then I go back up here for block 11, block 12, or sometimes I'll even change, like if I went to, I think I did for this one where I went block 9 and then 10 and then 11 and 12. So anyway, I just number the blocks. And then I just take, once I'm happy with how I think the image will look after I draw it, then I go on Stitch Fiddle and then I fill in the colors on Stitch Fiddle. So now my next 4 blocks are going to be of a turtle. So this turtle is going to be big, it's going to be large, and the turtle is going to go, let me just show you on the picture. The turtle is going to be the 4 blocks in the middle of the Afghan, right above the octopus and the clownfish. So the turtle is actually taking up all 4 blocks for the first middle portion here. So the hardest part that I had with the turtle, and this will be a little bit different again from my previous blocks, because the turtle is going to take, the image is going in all 4 blocks. And so I have to make sure that the images line up, because I like to use Tunisian crochet to join the blocks. And so I teach you how to do that in the previous blocks I made for the bottom of the blanket. And so that means that you have to line up the colors. So here, for the turtle shell, you can see where I lined it up in the center and with the bottom, and then the front feet line up with the head here. So I think it's going to be adorable. I don't know yet. I do know that with the face, what I did was with a pencil, I kind of drew it, and I kind of changed it as I was making it, graphing it. So at first I was going to do like a kind of a more of a lumpy head, and then I thought, no, it looks better with more of a rounded. So those are things that you'll adjust as you make them. And I really wanted this style of eyes. So I wasn't sure how it would turn out. At first I had a much larger head, and I didn't really like how it turned out, so I kind of went back to the drawing board and made it a little bit smaller. And this is what it looks like after I finished the Tunisian simple stitch. So you can see that it turned out really cute. At least I think that it turned out really cute, and I'm happy with how the eyes look. And this will be just another way that you can make the eyes too. And I actually made the nostrils here with Tunisian simple stitch too. So I didn't do any embroidery work on this one, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And to me, that's the trickiest part, is you have to make sure that the face is cute. That's the most important part. Now the rest of it should be easy, and I'm just going to finish this full turtle before I release these graphs on my blog. But I have a feeling, since the face turned out perfect in my opinion, then I think the rest will come out well too. So that's the fun that you can have by drawing your own graphs, and that's how I do it. So I don't know if there is a program that will take a small graph and put it so that it will graph it for you. I haven't found anything like that. So I just wanted to show you my method where I actually draw it and then graph it on Stitch Fiddle myself. And I've had people ask, well, how do you use Stitch Fiddle? I don't go right to Stitch Fiddle and just make this. I have to see it and draw it and use this technique here to erase my mistakes and alter it and change it, and so I have to do that. Now as far as inspiration, I can't go just off of just sit down and just start drawing. I have to use something where I can kind of use or take from. So online, you can Google search royalty-free pictures, and you can also just, Google a lot of images, cartoon-like images. Since I'm making this for a child, I used cartoon-like images for mine. So I use those cartoon-like images to kind of draw. I don't trace it. I actually draw it on my graph. And then once I draw it on the graph, you can take your Sharpie and kind of follow it and make your turns. They're a little bit different. You'll get used to it. The curves are a little bit different with graphs because they're working in pixels or boxes. And so that's why I love cross-stitch graphs. And if you've ever been on Pinterest, they have tons of cross-stitch graphs, pixel graphs, bead graphs that you can use for inspiration or ideas to help you when it comes to making your own blanket or graphs. So for my turtle, I'm actually very thrilled with how the face looks. I think it's just really adorable. But I also had this extra bow, and I have a separate video tutorial where I show how I make this bow. I'm really happy with how they turned out. But I had an extra one, and so I thought it would look really adorable if I just sew it in place on my turtle. Look how cute that is. So I'm going to take the same colored yarn and just kind of sew it in place on my turtle. So that's how I make my graphs. If you have any questions, you can ask either in the YouTube comments, or you can contact me via my blog at the top of my home page on my blog, www.helenmaycrochet.com. You can contact me and ask me questions.